Hey everybody, welcome to Moving Mountains. I'm here today with Brian Margolis, founder of Productivity Giant. Brian, so good to see you and to meet in person.
Yeah, after all this time.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice to meet you.
Fantastic to meet you. And we have to credit your brother, Dave, for this, another physical therapist. And we've worked side by side, and he's doing big things in the world of entrepreneurship. And
Soon to be, yeah.
Yeah, well, he already is. But I know he's got a real estate portfolio and all kinds of things. So fortunately, when him and I, reconnected during the pandemic, he's like, you got to talk to my brother. And that's all he said, really. And I'm so glad we connected. I'll let you tell everybody your story and really just maybe give away that you have a science background. You're a scientist, and
yeah,
you've pivoted now into coaching consulting. So tell us all about you personally and the journey and how you did it.
Yeah, I grew up wanting to be Jacques Cousteau.
Okay.
I don't know how old your audience is, but I grew up wanting to be Jacques Cousteau, and that's what I went to school for. Marine biology, graduate school for fisheries biology, and got a job as a research scientist, and probably what you would call a dream job in my field, right? Running my own program, working for the Department of Environmental Protection. But I don't know, I just think I'm psychologically unemployable, as one of my coaches would say. And even after a few years of my dream job, I always wanted to work for myself. And so I went out into the world of entrepreneurship, and now it's been over 2 decades. All different businesses, some big failures, some successes, things like that. And then during that process, I discovered something and ultimately turned that into my coaching consulting business.
Oh, wow. Wow, so good. We're going to talk about the highs and lows, but I know that, you've created, you have your book, which I read, which is excellent. The pillar system is a big part of things. Tell us how that started and kind of what the core concept is.
Yeah, I would say for the first decade of my entrepreneurial career, I grinded my way to most of my success. When I did have success, it was from grinding, right?
I can relate to this.
Everything to me was more. Oh, don't have results, work longer, work faster, do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was me because I didn't have a traditional business or sales background.
Right.
I thought it was kind of me. Something was wrong with me, so I just had to keep grinding.
Yeah.
And as I started having more success and started just talking to other entrepreneurs and people, I realized really quickly that everybody was as big of a mess as I was.
Right.
And so I would show them this dumb little index card thing I came up with for my own business. It took me 10 years, but for this own little run of my business from an index card, and they'd be like, I need that. And I was like, you know what? I sold one business, I stopped another one, and after doing that, I'm like, you know what? There might be something here. A lot of people want this index card, and so, excuse me, I started helping people here and there while I was looking for my new venture, and that new venture never came. I started coaching and consulting people, and here we are all these years later.
Wow, how did you actually make that transition? Was it complete dive into the coaching consulting space, or did you have a little bit of a...
Yeah, well, what I did was I started helping people that I knew.
Yeah.
And I was helping them here and helping them there, and where I really saw the opportunity wasn't that people were saying, I need that. It was how quickly we could get them results by simplifying things for them.
Right.
And again, I didn't think that was valuable. I was like, well, yeah, it's this dumb little simple index, whatever it was at the time. And then people started telling me like, no, you need to show more people, And at a certain point, I was like, you know what, let me give this a shot. And I started like everyone else. I went on a cold email campaign, pounding the pavement one at a time. And as I got a success story after success story, I would just share it and just
tell us about I know you mentioned you had like a one in particular success story that really was, a big part of your marketing in the beginning.
Yeah, there was a gentleman. He was a friend of mine, and he wanted help with his business, and he was in sales, and he was already doing pretty darn good. And we put this stuff into place, and then eventually after about 2 years, but he started seeing success. He literally doubled his business.
Yeah.
And so that's when I committed. I was like, all right, there's something here. And I literally went on a cold email campaign, right? Everyone says cold email doesn't work or this doesn't work. It works if you do it at a high intensity, everything works, right? And I started sharing that story,
Yeah.
got another client, and
Yeah.
then I was really lucky. I broke into a couple of industries where word of mouth really spread, and then word of mouth kind of took over. And again, a lot of luck to be in those kind of industries, but yeah, it's still the same process all these years later.
I think all those fundamentals are still true, that over-delivering is going to yield, a lot of word of mouth referrals, so nice job.
Got to get case studies.
Yeah.
I tell everyone that when they're starting out in anything. I'm like, even if you have to work for free, oh, well, I don't want to work for free. I want to have a really high price so they'll think I'm valuable.
Great advice. Alex Hormozy recommends it. I mean, he's like one of the biggest names in marketing right now.
Get case studies.
Just start, even starting for free. Yeah, to get case studies and refine and perfect your product. So doubling the size of the company by revenue? That was the result?
Well, he was an individual salesperson, so he literally doubled his income.
Doubled his profit.
Doubled his profit, and we had about 4 or 5 7-figure earners after that, like W-2 sales reps.
Yeah.
So their company started sniffing around, and
Yeah.
without going, I know we want to get through this, but it was just a lot of success stories. It was working.
And tell us a little bit more about, because I've read the book, so I'm familiar, but tell our listeners a little bit more about how an index card is so powerful.
Yeah, and for you younger listeners, we'll put a link below where they can download an index card, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
They don't even know what one is, but what it basically came down to was going from a reactive business to an intentional business, which is, most people's current level of success is, it's kind of their work ethic and their skills and talent. And you kind of go, and you grind your way to that level of success. But when you do that, you always hit a ceiling. There becomes a certain point where you just can't double your effort and get double the results, right? Law of diminishing returns. The missing piece is having an actual strategy, meaning predetermining ahead of time where to focus your skills, effort, right, and work ethic. And then you get to get that biggest return on investment. If you don't slow down long enough to figure that out, you're just on the hamster wheel.
Right.
And so the way I always explain having a strategy is, like, I love the parable of the fly, which is, I think we can all agree, flies are pretty good at flying, right? I mean, they're strong, they're fast, they're quick, they'll fly all frickin' day. We call them the fly. It's the ultimate honor, right? So why does one fly wind up dead on the windowsill and another one zips right out the door?
Right.
And it's because one pointed their skills and talent in one direction, right, and one in another. And so what the index card did, this idea of the index card, was we literally just boiled their business down to 5 to 7 things that they control,
right,
that they can hit each week, that are in their control, that as long as they execute on those, it's just a matter of time and pressure until they get where they want.
Yeah.
So really simplifying things.
I'm excited to pull the book back out and re-implement it, because I did start to implement it and kind of merge it with my existing processes, but I need to bring it back up to the top of the list. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but give us a little bit more specifics on who you're serving, at this stage of the game. And you've been coaching consulting for 20 years now?
Well, officially I've been doing it now, I guess about 13, 14 years maybe.
Okay.
Started off, like I said, with a few. And
so who are you serving now?
Still mostly small entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, lawyer has a few, employees, but a lot of sales pros. Basically anyone who's results-based.
Okay.
Right? If they get paid or they get measured on results, that's why I usually say sales pros and entrepreneurs.
Okay.
I'm usually either working for them individually or doing programs with their companies.
Okay, that's great. Anything else? Is there certain industries, so really it's the mindset, being results-based, and anything else so that people listening know, who the right fit is with?
Yeah, basically, if you're in sales, right, maybe you're a W-2, you're in sales, or you're a solopreneur, you have a small business, you work for yourself.
Yeah.
If you're results-based, this is going to work for you.
So you are serving even some W-2 people in results-based business?
W-2 people. I go all the way from individual, right, individuals to, I've licensed this to multiple Fortune 500 companies.
Right.
And so now they actually use the system to train their sales teams and their results-based people in their company.
Okay.
So this dumb little index card has a wide breadth, right?
Wow.
Fortune 500, the
Yeah.
lady down the street.
Pretty powerful, pretty impressive. So along those lines, I always like to ask, people that have had massive success, how they get through the valleys, the challenging times, including from a mindset standpoint. And I know
It's a good week to ask me.
Okay, I know you mentioned even like some financial, mistakes or troubles that you had along the way.
Right.
How did you get through all those challenges?
So ultimately, big picture,
Yeah.
I've, maybe this is a 76ers plug, I don't know, our local basketball team here,
Yeah.
but I've learned to trust the process. Like I know on Friday night, and my clients know on Friday night, as long as they executed on their pillars, what we determined, it's just a matter of time and pressure, right? But we're human beings. And so sometimes, even though results tend to be lag indicators, if we don't see results right away, we kind of, go up and down with it. So I've learned over the years to trust the process. At a micro level, I'm a state person, meaning, Tony Robbins and different people talk about state.
Right.
And I've gotten really good. I'm not good at a lot of stuff, but I've gotten good at this, right?
Okay.
Where I can, even though I'm miserable and doubting everything, right? I mean, you can have a lot of wins like we just talked about and still feel like a fraud sometimes.
Sure.
Right? Or this isn't gonna work, or it's dying, or whatever. I'm really good at stepping away and going, I know I'm in a bad state right now. I know every little thing's gonna annoy me. I know that it's gonna feel like I'm never gonna get another, win or anything like that. And I just kind of recognize that I'm in that state, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And then it's not that it makes me feel better, it's just that I step back and go, I'm gonna feel different tomorrow. I'm gonna feel different 2 days from now, because I absolutely know that I keep doing the weekly things, my system that I have to do, my pillars.
Right.
I know it's coming.
Okay.
Right?
So you don't necessarily shift yourself in that moment. You just know that it's going to be brighter.
Yeah, I do my best. I use a lot of the, I'll leave the house, go get a decaf coffee, try to get some fresh air, right? Work out, do something like that. But, I'm not a magician yet. I haven't done a lot of the stuff that you teach and you understand to really de-stress and things like that, people in the medical field. But I'm just good at recognizing I'm in that state.
Yeah, okay. So good, so powerful. So let's take a quick break right now. We're going to thank our sponsors, and everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back, and we're going to hear how Brian, despite having this wild success, licensing his system, avoids burnout and stays healthy. We'll see you in a minute.
Un ataque cerebral puede ser fácil de detectar. Su ser querido no logra hablar o quizás no puede moverse. Pero existe otro síntoma de ataque cerebral que muchos de nosotros no vemos. Se llama negligencia espacial y puede ocurrir durante o después de un ataque cerebral, causando movimientos visuales distorsionados. Afortunadamente, existe una solución que utiliza tecnología óptica basada en prismas durante la rehabilitación. Si usted o su ser querido experimenta un ataque cerebral, pregúntele a su doctor sobre la negligencia espacial. Encuentre más información en kesslerfoundation.org.
Weeds. I have you surrounded. You just gonna stand there? Or are you gonna take your lawn back?
We're gonna take it back.
We're gonna take it back.
With Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action, it gets 3 jobs done at once. Kills weeds, prevents crabgrass, and keeps your lawn growing strong. Glorious!
No.
Get a bag of Scott's Triple Action today. It's guaranteed.
Feed your lawn.
And Doug.
Hey, man. Nice base. Clearly you're a safe driver. You could save hundreds for safe driving with Liberty Mutual. They customize your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need. Woo! We gotta go again.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
I learned how quickly everything can be taken away. 1 minute, I was playing college football. The next, I was paralyzed. I'm Eric LeGrand. I believe I will walk again, but also know what I can do now. I'm applying my love of the game as a sports broadcaster and inspiring others along the way. Only my abilities matter. Visit Kessler Foundation on Facebook and tell us your abilities. And go to KesslerFoundation.org, where only abilities matter.
Un ataque cerebral puede ser fácil de detectar. Su ser querido no logra hablar o quizás no puede moverse, pero existe otro síntoma de ataque cerebral que muchos de nosotros no vemos. Se llama negligencia espacial y puede ocurrir durante o después de un ataque cerebral, causando movimientos visuales distorsionados. Afortunadamente, existe una solución que
Welcome back to Moving Mountains. I'm Dr. Lance Knaub, and I'm here today with Brian Margolis. Brian, so good to have you here today.
Thank you.
Glad we're finally meeting in person and tearing into all your wisdom. So let's talk about how you avoid burnout and stay healthy, and what lifestyle things you do to accomplish that. And specifically, I always love to know how much sleep people get.
Yeah, so this is going to be no surprise to anybody, but my health is associated with my weekly pillars.
Okay.
Right? One of the things I put in there, I'm a big fan of combining your personal and your professional pillars.
Okay.
And the idea being very simply, as long as I execute on these things, my work works, my life works.
Okay,
right?
so good.
The two things. But, I'm one of these people, I despise working out, which probably surprised you since we met through my brother who loves working out and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I do not like working out. I've never liked working out. The runner's high, all that, I've never had it. I don't know what people are talking about, right? But I would say that I probably work out more consistently than 95% of this country. And that's not a high bar, but I literally, my pillar, I do 3 workouts a week consistently. 3, 3, 3, 3. And sometimes what counts as a workout might change, but I use my pillars for that.
Okay.
And on the same card I track my pillars, I also have certain eating things, and I'm a tracker, so I like to check. I like that feeling of crossing stuff off, checking it. So I'm a big fan of that.
Okay.
As far as sleep, I need a lot of sleep.
Yeah, talk to us.
Everybody makes fun of me in my neighborhood. My friends make fun of me.
It's impressive. How much do you go for?
I'm in bed by 9:30.
Okay.
So 9:30 to 6:30.
Wow.
And then my alarm goes off, and then I roll out. I snooze a couple of times, maybe roll out at 7. So what's that, about 9.5 hours?
That's amazing.
I need it.
That's great.
I need the sleep. I don't know how people function on less sleep.
Yeah.
But like I said, everyone jokes like their kids stay up later than me. And it's and this is long before all the Andrew Huberman stuff. I've just needed the sleep.
Yeah.
I've needed the sleep.
So many people, and especially entrepreneurs, right? This is like the first thing that I've seen a pattern really gets compromised. So kudos to you for really making that a priority.
Yeah, and I'm always trying to hack my sleep too. I'm not very good at it.
Okay.
But,
And how about mental health? Anything that you do?
Mental health, I feel like as long as I get outside, and I'm a social person. I know a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of like, the reputation is we're I'm a social person.
Right.
And so I go out of my way to be around people, neighbors, friends, concerts, whatever it is. Like, I'm just a social person, and as long as I'm social, and I make time for this too. Again, no surprise, but I have an index card I call my RIM review, and I have to review it once a month. And it just forces me to schedule things.
Right.
It forces me to schedule things even if I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, good. Well, nice job with the lifestyle, and
not perfect.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not.
Of course.
2 steps forward, 1 step back, right?
Yeah. And how about the financial, challenge that you had, right? We've all faced some.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned something
no
along
doubt.
the way that you powered through.
I was the person. Alex Hormozy talks about this now that he's the rage. He talks about applying 8 skills to a 2 opportunity.
Right.
I was notorious for applying my skills, the things I was good at, to bad business opportunities. And so even though I'd be successful, like for example, one of my first companies, we had name recognition and all this stuff. People from the outside looking in, they were just like, oh my God, that's like you guys are in this, and you're dealing with that person and this guy and whatever. And it just as a business bottom line, it just wasn't a good business to be in. And so I was really good at saying yes to bad businesses. And I will tell you, the worst financial decision I ever made beside that, I still regret it to this day, was for the first 10 years of my entrepreneurial career, I didn't plan my day.
Okay.
It sounds so stupid.
Wow.
But once I got on this side of the fence and actually operate, even though, again, not perfect, but
right.
I actually operate with a plan each day,
yeah.
It's amazing how much more work you give yourself to do when you don't have a daily plan.
Right.
I'm amazed, and I just think about how much money I left on the table just grinding for that first decade, right? And now the last 13 or 14 years, whatever it's been, it's like the difference. And I always look back, I'm like, it's like a bad investment. I'm like, God, if I started doing that, where would I be?
So interesting. Well, that probably leads into what I want to talk to you about next. I think it's one of your favorite words and a passion of yours, just strategy.
Yeah.
Right? And being strategic. What does strategy mean to you? And and obviously that's something that you're serving your community with and the world with. So talk to us.
Strategy to me goes along with the word intentional.
Okay.
Right?
There we go.
Shirt, right?
Yes, I love it. Yes.
Right. Strategy is predetermining. Like I said, it's predetermining ahead of time where to focus your skills, your energy, your talents, right? Your effort. Because if you just leave it up to being reactive all day and being reactive, we're distracted beings by nature.
Right.
It's what we do. The phones, and even before the phones, though, we're just distracted beings. And so strategy to me is figuring out. Now, again, I have a process to do that, but I don't think you need my process. Sometimes if you just slow down and think it through, but figure out where to focus, because certain areas just pay better. And when I say pay, I don't just mean financially, right? I just mean you get a bigger ROI focusing on certain things than you do others.
Yeah. Brian, strategy is also one of my favorite topics and things. Being a scientific person, as you're formerly trained scientist and with a healthcare and evidence-based background, I tend to look at a lot of things like the scientific method, and you have to have a working theory, a hypothesis, and then test it, and then figure out what's working and what's not working, and just keep getting better at all the parts of the process, no matter which, if you look at circularly or horizontal or vertical, including the measuring. I feel like that's a part that entrepreneurs aren't strong at, generally speaking.
Right.
So I love this, predetermined action, because otherwise, there's the whole ready, aim, fire, or, or just, I guess some people actually aim first, or
they
shoot first.
Fire first, right?
Fire first, yeah.
And look, you do have to do a little bit of that to, you're constantly fine-tuning things. I mean, one of the most powerful things that I work on for myself and work with other people is something I call the ROI of getting it right. Meaning, there are certain things, it's not where you give a unit of effort, you get $1 back or whatever it is. Certain things, it's kind of like you do it, you try it, you get feedback, you adjust, and the average person will do something and say, I tried that, it didn't work. But if you have enough evidence around you that something works, then I'm willing to go through that back and forth, feedback, whatever, because like what I said, I started off with the cold emails.
Yeah.
I knew that one email, just the right subject line, the right words, the right whatever, would get me back what, the 13 crappy emails before that got me, right? And that's exactly what happened. It was like one email got me most of my initial clients. And so I love the ROI of getting it right. But again, you don't just do it because you feel it, you do it because you know it works, right? You don't dig for gold, you don't dig 30 holes if you don't know there's gold down there, right?
Right.
So anyway.
And help us connect the dots on ROI, which is also one of my favorite words and favorite topics, and connected to strategy. Like, how does that connect for you, and how do you measure ROI?
Yeah, I mean, in my business, ROI, and when I say my business, I mean, I'm Brian Incorporated, right? To me, it's all one thing. And so ROI to me, it's simply the multiple, right? Which is, you're going to know where this came from, but when they say that input times leverage equals output, right? Or input times the multiple equals output.
Right.
And so I'm looking for the highest multiple on my input.
Okay.
For example, I recently, like one of my little side things, I bought a couple of YouTube channels, right?
Okay.
And I'm just interested in like digital real estate, and we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah.
But I bought them as investments, but I'm not the one sitting here figuring out how to optimize this YouTube channel or anything. Now I could, it'd be fun, but I'm better off staying where I get the biggest ROI to bring in capital, and then I can pay someone to do that, right? I'm gonna get a bigger ROI doing that, as opposed to me working on that YouTube channel. And so again, it's just for me, and again, there's no magic formula, but I'm always looking, what is that next level of leverage? What is that next level of leverage? And one of my favorites, you might know this one, Who Not How.
Yeah, of course.
That book.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Ben Hardy is my favorite thought leader, you know, at the moment. 10X, I mean, I bought 50 copies, I think, last year.
And most of that comes from Dean Jackson, who I've hired as a coach a few times. I've done his programs.
I'm not familiar with Dean Jackson. I know he used Dan Sullivan's concepts.
Yeah, Dean is part of that whole Dan Sullivan, Joe Polish, whatever.
Okay.
And I don't know if Dean gets enough credit, but
I haven't heard his name,
Dean's the person that I first heard Who Not How. I didn't, you know, a lot of this other stuff came later. And I believe they mentioned him in the book. I could be wrong. But it's the same concept. It's that leverage.
So I want to hear your boiled down best recommendations for people that want to achieve, you know, incredible success like you have, licensing and, you know, 13 years plus in business and, you know, reaching incredible peaks.
13 years plus in this business.
Yes, yes. As an entrepreneur.
I think my first one was, my first business was part-time. I had a part-time business while I was a scientist, and that's what happened. Eventually I had to make a decision. It was getting to the point I had to make a decision, but yes.
Yeah, so share, you know, boil down recommendations, and if there's anything we didn't talk about that you want to make sure you get that message out, definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
that.
I'm always careful with business advice, just general whatever.
Yeah.
I think the first thing you need to do, like if I had to give you, if you're starting a business, right? But actually, even if you're not starting, if you're in the middle of a business and you're looking to make a shift or looking to add to the business, it's kind of a combination of what are you either good at or interested in that you'll become good at it.
Right.
And you take that and apply it to something that has a big upside, right? Because like I said at the beginning, I applied what were my skill sets to some crappy opportunities, right? And so to me, it's like, what are you either already really good at or interested enough that you know you'll become good because you'll keep doing it, and just apply that to something that has a big upside.
Right.
And plan your frickin' day.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's so good. So definitely, is there anything new or exciting that you have coming out before we definitely want to get all your contact info?
You know what, I don't know if it's definitely new. I don't know how exciting it is, but I'm finally on Instagram.
Okay, congrats.
Finally at the age of 50.
Yeah.
The digital marketing guy that I work with forced me to get on Instagram.
Okay,
so
great, good for you.
I'll be
outside of your comfort zone.
Way outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Way outside my comfort zone.
I love it. So how can everybody get the book, learn the pillar system, you know, get in touch with
I'll
the
make it
organization?
real simple.
Yeah.
Productivitygiant.com. And from productivitygiant.com, you can pretty much get anywhere. You can get a copy of the book, free copy, or you can go on Amazon if you like doing it the old-fashioned way.
Okay, free copy electronically, right? And
free electronic
print
copy.
Yep.
All sorts of free videos, resources on there.
Okay.
So yeah, productivitygiant.com, and just kind of a one-stop shop.
Okay, that's perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Totally, yeah. We have Dave to thank for connecting us, and as I said before the interview, I certainly appreciate your expertise. You've given me guidance since we've known each other. I've leaned on you and appreciate that, and it's worked out well. So I can't thank you enough for coming today. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, all your expertise. So yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, and please check out Productivity Giant and all of Brian's good stuff, and definitely tune in next week for our next episode of Moving Mountains.
Sally up, green Sally down, left on